Your stomach is lying to you. You finished eating 30 minutes ago. But right now, something in your body is sending a signal to your brain saying you are still hungry. And that same signal is telling your belly fat to stay exactly where it is. That signal has a name. It is called ghrelin, and it is the most powerful hunger hormone in your body. Here is what makes ghrelin different from anything else you have heard about weight loss. Ghrelin does not just make you hungry. It directly activates receptors on visceral fat cells and orders them to hold their stored energy and stop releasing it. Hunger and belly fat storage happening simultaneously from one hormone. That green X you see blocking the stomach signal in this thumbnail is not decoration. That is exactly what happens inside your body when you learn to suppress ghrelin correctly. The hunger signal gets blocked. The belly fat starts melting. A 2010 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology measured ghrelin levels in two groups eating identical meals. One group ate slowly over 30 minutes. The other ate the same food in under 10 minutes. The slow group had ghrelin levels 33% lower afterward. Same food, same calories, 33% less hunger hormone just from eating speed. That is the hack. But it is only one piece of it. There are three specific things you can combine today, just one day, that science says will suppress ghrelin more powerfully than any diet or medication currently available without a prescription. And when ghrelin drops, two things happen simultaneously. Your hunger stops feeling uncontrollable, and your belly fat loses the hormonal protection keeping it in place. Stay with me, because the third element is the one nobody talks about, and it multiplies everything else. Let me explain ghrelin clearly, because most people only know half the story. Your stomach produces ghrelin primarily in its upper lining. Levels rise sharply before meals and drop after eating. That rise is what you experience as hunger. But here is the part that changes everything about how you think about belly fat. Ghrelin does not just signal hunger to your brain. It also binds directly to receptors on visceral fat cells and activates a protein called lipid droplet accumulation factor. In simple terms, ghrelin tells your visceral fat cells to store more and release less. High ghrelin means hungry brain and growing belly simultaneously. Low ghrelin means calm hunger signals and fat cells that respond to burning signals instead. A 2014 study published in Cell Metabolism confirmed this mechanism directly. Blocking ghrelin receptors in obese subjects reduced visceral fat by 22% over 8 weeks without changing food intake. The fat responded to the hormone change, not the calories. Now, here's why this hits harder after 60. Muscle mass drops naturally after 60, at roughly 3 to 5% per decade. Muscle tissue produces a peptide called obestatin that suppresses ghrelin production. Less muscle means less obestatin. Less obestatin means ghrelin runs higher as a new baseline. So your hunger is genuinely stronger than it was at 45. Not because your willpower weakened, because the biological brake on ghrelin got smaller. A 2008 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that adults with obesity had post-meal ghrelin levels 20% higher than lean adults, despite eating the same sized meals. Their fullness signal was weaker, and their fat storage signal was stronger at the same time. That is the cycle most seniors are stuck in without knowing it. So what is driving ghrelin even higher than it should be? There are 4 specific causes, and most people over 60 are dealing with at least 2 or 3 of them daily. Cause number 1, the wrong breakfast. This is the most common and most damaging one. When you start your day with cereal, toast, or anything high in refined carbs, your blood sugar spikes fast and drops just as fast. That drop triggers an emergency ghrelin surge within 90 to 120 minutes of eating. Your stomach is not empty, but ghrelin is already climbing back toward pre-meal levels. A 2011 study published in Obesity tracked ghrelin in 2 groups eating breakfasts with identical calories. The high glycemic group had ghrelin 33% higher 3 hours after eating than the high protein group. Same calories eaten, completely different hunger hormone outcome 3 hours later. That mid-morning hunger you feel around 10 a.m. after a cereal breakfast is not weakness. It is a predictable hormonal response to the wrong food. Cause number 2, sleeping under 7 hours. One single night of under 6 hours sleep raises ghrelin by 28% the following day. That is not a slight increase. That is nearly a third more hunger hormone running through your system all day from one bad night. The University of Chicago study that measured this also found that the same sleep deprivation raised ghrelin specifically for high-calorie, high-sugar foods, rather than for balanced meals. Your body does not just get hungrier, it gets hungrier for exactly the foods that spike blood sugar and create the crash that drives more ghrelin. After 60, sleep architecture changes naturally. Deep sleep shortens, night waking increases. Chronic mild sleep deprivation becomes the norm for many seniors, and chronically elevated ghrelin becomes the norm with it. Cause number 3, eating too fast. Your stomach needs 15 to 20 minutes to release enough CCK and GLP-1 to send a meaningful fullness signal to your brain. Those hormones are the direct opponents of ghrelin. They rise after eating begins and suppress ghrelin as they climb. But if you finish your meal in under 10 minutes, ghrelin is still high when your fork goes down. Your brain has not received the suppression signal yet. You feel unsatisfied, despite having eaten enough food. The 2010 study I mentioned in the hook confirmed this directly. Slow eaters had ghrelin 33% lower after the same meal, not because they ate more, because they gave their body time to produce the hormones that suppress ghrelin naturally. Cause number 4, chronic stress and high cortisol. Cortisol and ghrelin have a direct stimulatory relationship. When cortisol rises, ghrelin rises with it. This makes biological sense as a survival mechanism. Stress historically meant physical danger, and physical danger required energy, so cortisol triggered ghrelin to drive eating. But chronic low-grade stress from modern life, financial worry, poor sleep, social isolation, keeps cortisol mildly elevated around the clock. And mildly elevated cortisol means mildly elevated ghrelin all day. A 2011 study in psychoneuroendocrinology found that adults with high chronic stress had baseline ghrelin levels 19% higher than low-stress adults matched for age, weight, and diet. Same food, same body weight, 19% more hunger hormone just from stress levels. After 60, cortisol regulation becomes less efficient. Recovery from stressful events takes longer, and the cumulative effect on ghrelin builds quietly over months and years. Now you understand why hunger feels harder to control after 60. 4 causes working simultaneously to push ghrelin higher than it should be. So what actually suppresses it? There are 3 specific elements that research identifies as the most powerful ghrelin suppressors available through diet and behavior. And combined in the right way, they create an effect that lasts most of the day from a single morning intervention. This is the core of everything. 3 elements combined in one morning meal that science says suppresses ghrelin more powerfully than any single dietary change alone. Element number 1, 30 grams of protein within 60 minutes of waking. Protein is the only macronutrient that directly suppresses ghrelin at the source. Not just temporarily through stomach fullness, but by triggering peptide YY and GLP-1 production in your gut lining, 2 hormones that actively push ghrelin down and keep it down for hours. Fat and carbohydrates do not trigger this response at the same level. Protein does it most powerfully and most consistently across every age group studied. A 2006 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition compared 2 breakfast groups eating identical calories. The high-protein group had ghrelin 25% lower 3 hours after eating. They also consumed 441 fewer calories throughout the rest of that day, without being told to restrict anything. Lower ghrelin meant less hunger, and less hunger meant less eating without any conscious effort. 30 grams of protein sounds like a lot before 8 a.m. It is a lot before 8 a.m. It is not. 2 whole eggs plus 170 grams of plain Greek yogurt gives you approximately 27 to 30 grams, depending on the brand. Add a small handful of nuts, and you are there. That is a breakfast that takes 5 minutes to prepare. The timing matters as much as the amount. Eating protein within 60 minutes of waking interrupts the morning cortisol spike before it has time to drive ghrelin higher. Wait until 10 a.m. for your first meal, and cortisol has already been pushing ghrelin upward for 3 hours. Element number 2, soluble fiber eaten with or before the protein. Protein suppresses ghrelin through hormone signaling. Soluble fiber suppresses it through a completely different and complementary mechanism. Soluble fiber, particularly beta-glucan from oats and inulin from garlic and onions, forms a gel-like substance in your stomach as it absorbs water. That gel physically slows gastric emptying, the rate at which food leaves your stomach and enters the small intestine. Ghrelin only starts rising significantly when your stomach begins approaching empty. Slow the emptying, and you delay that rise. The fullness window extends from 2 hours to 4 or 5 hours from the same meal. A 2009 study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition added 10 grams of beta-glucan to a standard breakfast for one group, while the control group ate the same breakfast without it. The beta-glucan group had ghrelin 18% lower 4 hours after eating. 4 hours of meaningfully suppressed hunger from adding a few tablespoons of oats. Practically, this means adding half a cup of cooked rolled oats to your protein breakfast, or stirring a tablespoon of chia seeds into your yogurt. Both provide adequate soluble fiber to create the gastric slowing effect. The combination of protein-triggering ghrelin-suppressing hormones and fiber-slowing gastric emptying creates a layered effect. Ghrelin gets hit from 2 directions at the same time. Element number 3, eating slowly for at least 20 minutes. This is the one that multiplies everything else, and it costs nothing. Here is the mechanism in detail. When food enters your stomach, your gut starts releasing CCK from the small intestine and GLP-1 from the lower intestine. These hormones travel to your brain and directly suppress ghrelin signaling in the hypothalamus. But that process takes 15 to 20 minutes from the moment eating begins. If you eat a perfectly constructed, high-protein, high-fiber breakfast in 7 minutes, ghrelin is still near its peak when you push your plate away. Your brain has not received the suppression signal yet. You feel vaguely unsatisfied, even though you ate the right foods. If you eat the exact same breakfast over 25 minutes, CCK and GLP-1 have had time to rise, reach your brain, and push ghrelin down before you finish eating. You put your fork down feeling genuinely full. The 2010 Journal of Clinical Endocrinology study measured exactly this. Same meal, same people, different eating speeds on different days. Slow eating produced ghrelin levels 33% lower after the meal. Practically, this means putting your utensil down between every bite, chewing each mouthful 15 to 20 times before swallowing, drinking water between bites, having a conversation if someone is there with you. Set a timer for 20 minutes when you start eating. Do not finish before it goes off. That is the entire instruction. Now, here is why combining all 3 matters more than using any one of them alone. Protein suppresses ghrelin through peptide YY and GLP-1 signaling. Fiber suppresses ghrelin by slowing gastric emptying. Slow eating gives both mechanisms enough time to reach their full effect before the meal ends. Each element addresses ghrelin through a different pathway. Combined, they converge on the same result from 3 directions simultaneously. A 2019 meta-analysis in Nutrients Journal reviewed 24 separate trials on breakfast composition and ghrelin in adults over 55. The trials that combined high protein, high fiber, and slow eating protocols consistently showed the largest ghrelin reductions, significantly larger than any single element produced on its own. The combination is the hack, not any one piece of it. Most people think ghrelin is just a hunger hormone. Control the hunger, eat less, lose weight. That is the surface level understanding. The deeper mechanism is what makes this genuinely exciting. Visceral fat cells have ghrelin receptors built into their membrane. When ghrelin binds to those receptors, it activates a protein inside the fat cell called lipid droplet accumulation factor. That protein tells the fat cell to pull triglycerides from the bloodstream and store them. And simultaneously, it suppresses hormone-sensitive lipase, the enzyme that breaks stored fat down for energy. Ghrelin is not just making you hungry while your belly fat sits there passively. Ghrelin is actively instructing your belly fat to grow and resist breakdown at the same time. This is why two people can eat the same calories and one gains more visceral fat than the other. The one with higher ghrelin has fat cells receiving a stronger storage signal and a weaker breakdown signal from the same food. Now, here is what happens when ghrelin drops. The storage signal to visceral fat cells weakens. Lipid droplet accumulation factor activity decreases. Hormone-sensitive lipase is no longer suppressed. Your fat cells shift from store mode into release mode. Fatty acids start leaving visceral fat cells and entering your bloodstream to be burned as fuel. This happens independently of how much you ate. It is a hormonal shift, not a calorie shift. A 2014 study in Cell Metabolism demonstrated this mechanism directly in human subjects by administering a ghrelin receptor blocker for 8 weeks. Participants reduced visceral fat by 22% without any changes to their diet or activity level. The only variable was ghrelin receptor activity. Now, you cannot take a ghrelin receptor blocker as a consumer, but suppressing ghrelin naturally through the 3-element hack creates a similar biological environment. Lower ghrelin means weaker storage signals and stronger breakdown signals in your visceral fat cells every single day. Over days and weeks, those daily shifts accumulate, less fat being stored from each meal, more fat being released between meals. The belly responds. And here is the compounding effect that makes this particularly powerful after just 1 day of trying it. When you suppress ghrelin effectively at breakfast, its baseline for the entire day shifts lower. A 2017 study in Appetite Journal tracked ghrelin levels every 2 hours in adults who ate a high-protein, high-fiber breakfast versus those who ate a standard breakfast. The high-protein, high-fiber group had lower ghrelin, not just in the morning, but measurably lower at 2 p.m., 5 p.m., and even before bed. One breakfast decision changed the hormonal environment for 16 hours. That means fewer hunger episodes in the afternoon, less evening snacking driven by genuine biological hunger, fewer total calories consumed without any conscious restriction, and visceral fat cells receiving a weaker storage signal for most of the waking day. From one meal. On the first day you try it, not a dramatic transformation, but a measurable shift in the direction your body is moving. And that direction compounds every day you repeat it. Here is exactly what to do today. Not a 30-day program, not a complete lifestyle overhaul. Just 1 day done correctly so you can feel the difference yourself. Morning, within 60 minutes of waking up. Drink 1 large glass of filtered water first. Your stomach has been empty for 7 to 9 hours, and ghrelin is at its daily peak right now. Water does not suppress ghrelin significantly, but it primes your digestive system for what comes next. Then prepare this specific breakfast. 2 whole eggs, scrambled or boiled, not just the whites. 170 grams of plain Greek yogurt, no added sugar, live cultures on the label. Half a cup of rolled oats cooked in water with 1 tablespoon of chia seeds stirred in. A small handful of blueberries on top if you have them. That combination gives you approximately 30 grams of protein, 12 grams of soluble fiber, and enough leucine from the eggs to trigger muscle protein synthesis simultaneously. Now, set a timer for 20 minutes when you take your first bite. Put your fork or spoon down between every mouthful. Drink water between bites. Do not check your phone. Do not watch television. Just eat slowly and let your gut hormones do their work. By the time 20 minutes passes and you finish that breakfast, peptide YY and GLP-1 will have risen enough to push ghrelin meaningfully down. You will notice the difference from a normal breakfast immediately. Not dramatic fullness, just a quiet absence of the urge to keep eating. Wait 20 to 30 minutes after finishing before you have your coffee. This prevents the cortisol amplification that would otherwise push ghrelin back up within an hour. Late morning, around 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. This is the window where ghrelin normally surges after a standard high-carb breakfast. Pay attention to what you feel today compared to a normal day. If you executed the breakfast correctly, you should notice significantly less of that mid-morning pull towards snacking. Not zero hunger necessarily, but the compulsive quality of it should be reduced. If you do feel genuinely hungry, eat a small amount of protein. A hard-boiled egg, a few tablespoons of cottage cheese, or a small handful of mixed nuts. These will extend the ghrelin suppression without spiking blood sugar. Do not eat processed snacks, crackers, or fruit juice, even if marketed as healthy. Any rapid blood sugar spike at this point will reset the ghrelin curve upward and undo the morning work. Lunch, whenever genuine hunger arrives. Eat when you are actually hungry, not by the clock. This is important because one of the measurable outcomes of the ghrelin hack is that true hunger gets delayed. Many people find their first genuine post-breakfast hunger arrives 30 to 60 minutes later than usual. When you do eat lunch, start with vegetables or a side salad before the main portion. Fiber from vegetables slows gastric emptying again and prepares your stomach to suppress ghrelin through the afternoon. Eat your protein before your carbs within the meal. This sequencing matters because protein eaten first triggers earlier GLP-1 release than when carbs come first. Earlier GLP-1 means earlier ghrelin suppression within that meal. Eat slowly again. Same 20-minute minimum. Same utensil down between bites practice. Afternoon, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. This is the second ghrelin danger zone for most seniors. Cortisol dips naturally in mid-afternoon, and ghrelin often rises in response. Combined with habit and boredom, this is when most unnecessary snacking happens. If hunger hits here, drink 1 large glass of water first and wait 10 minutes. Mild dehydration mimics hunger signals in the brain. A significant portion of afternoon cravings disappear after adequate hydration. If genuine hunger remains after water, a small protein snack is the correct response. Not a biscuit, not crackers, not anything that will create a blood sugar spike and crash before dinner. Dinner, ideally before 7 p.m. Eat a normal, balanced dinner with adequate protein and vegetables. Apply the same slow eating principle one more time. 20 minutes minimum, utensil down between bites. After dinner, stop eating completely. Evening ghrelin is naturally lower after a well-structured day. Most people find evening snacking urges are meaningfully reduced on days when ghrelin was managed from morning. Stop all screens 1 hour before bed. Blue light keeps cortisol slightly elevated, which pushes ghrelin higher overnight and into the next morning. Getting to sleep before 10:30 p.m. protects the ghrelin suppression you built today and carries it into tomorrow. What to notice by end of day 1. You will not see a change in the mirror after 1 day. That is not what this is about. What you should notice is this: fewer uncontrollable hunger episodes between meals than a normal day. Less urge to open the refrigerator out of habit rather than genuine hunger. A genuine feeling of fullness after meals, rather than temporary satisfaction followed by resuming hunger quickly. Possibly less bloating than usual, because ghrelin influences gut motility, and lower ghrelin tends to reduce the distension that contributes to belly appearance. Those sensations are your body telling you the ghrelin curve shifted today, and that shift, repeated consistently over weeks, is what the belly fat research is measuring when it shows visceral fat reduction without caloric restriction. The day 1 experience is the proof of concept. The weeks that follow are where the belly fat responds. You have the 3 elements that suppress ghrelin. Now here are 3 things that undo all of that work. Avoid these on day 1 and every day after. Number 1. Sweetened drinks, including fruit juice. This one catches most people off guard because juice feels healthy. An orange, a glass of orange juice, same thing, right? Biologically, they are very different. When you eat a whole orange, the fiber slows sugar absorption and triggers stretch receptors in your stomach wall. Those stretch receptors send a fullness signal that reduces ghrelin. When you drink orange juice, the fiber is gone. The sugar hits your bloodstream fast. Your stomach receives no meaningful volume. No stretch receptor signal fires. Ghrelin does not drop. A study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that liquid calories from sweetened drinks produced significantly less ghrelin suppression than the same calories from solid food, regardless of total sugar content. The 150 calories in a glass of orange juice generate almost no ghrelin reduction. Your body receives energy without receiving a fullness signal. Ghrelin stays high, and your belly fat cells keep receiving their storage instructions. This applies to all liquid sugar sources. Sweetened coffee drinks, flavored waters, sports drinks, packaged smoothies with added sugar. If it has added sugar in liquid form, it bypasses the ghrelin suppression mechanism almost entirely. Number 2, cereal or toast as a standalone breakfast. You already know why from the earlier section, but it is worth being direct here. A bowl of cereal or 2 slices of toast with jam contains almost no protein and minimal fiber. It provides enough glucose to briefly suppress ghrelin. Then blood sugar drops 90 minutes later and ghrelin surges back fast. By 10 a.m., you are hungrier than if you had eaten nothing at all. That is not an exaggeration. A 2013 study in the International Journal of Obesity found that adults who ate a high glycemic breakfast reported higher hunger and consumed more total daily calories than adults who skipped breakfast entirely. The wrong breakfast is worse than no breakfast for ghrelin management. It gives you the calories without giving you the suppression. If you are still eating cereal in the morning after watching this video, that single change to a protein and fiber breakfast may be the highest leverage dietary adjustment you can make right now. Number 3, skipping breakfast to lose weight faster. This feels logical. Fewer meals means fewer calories means faster fat loss. But ghrelin does not follow that logic. When you skip breakfast after waking, ghrelin rises continuously from the moment you open your eyes until the moment food arrives. By the time you eat lunch at noon, ghrelin has been climbing for 5 to 6 hours. At that peak level, 3 things happen simultaneously. Your brain is in maximum hunger mode, so you eat faster than normal. Eating fast means the 20-minute suppression window is bypassed. And your visceral fat cells have been receiving uninterrupted ghrelin storage signals since morning. A 2019 study in the Journal of Nutrition followed adults over 55 who either ate breakfast within 90 minutes of waking or skipped it for 6 weeks. The breakfast group consumed fewer total daily calories despite eating an additional meal. The skip breakfast group had higher average daily ghrelin, higher total calorie intake, and gained visceral fat over the 6-week period. More meals, less fat. Because the meals were managing ghrelin instead of letting it run unchecked. Skipping breakfast to save calories is the dietary equivalent of skipping sleep to have more hours in the day. It feels like a gain in the short term, but the biological cost compounds quickly. Let me bring everything together cleanly. Ghrelin is not just a hunger hormone. It directly instructs visceral fat cells to store energy and resist breakdown. High ghrelin means hungry brain and growing belly at the same time. Low ghrelin means calm hunger and fat cells open to releasing stored energy. 4 things pushed ghrelin abnormally high after 60. The wrong breakfast, creating blood sugar spikes and crashes. Poor sleep, raising ghrelin by 28% the following day. Eating too fast and bypassing the 20-minute suppression window. Chronic stress, keeping cortisol and ghrelin elevated together. 3 elements combined suppress ghrelin more powerfully than any single change alone. 30 grams of protein within 60 minutes of waking, soluble fiber from oats or chia seeds eaten with the protein, eating slowly for at least 20 minutes to let gut hormones reach your brain. 3 things to avoid that undo all of it. Sweetened drinks, including juice, because liquid calories bypass ghrelin suppression. Cereal or toast alone, because the blood sugar crash drives ghrelin back up within 90 minutes. Skipping breakfast, because letting ghrelin climb for 5 hours creates a hormonal environment where visceral fat actively resists breakdown all morning. Try it today, not for a month, just today. Build the breakfast, eat it slowly, and pay attention to how your afternoon feels compared to a normal day. That difference is ghrelin working for you instead of against you. Now I want to hear from you. What do you normally eat for breakfast right now? And how long does it take before you feel hungry again? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one, and I want to know where most people are starting from. If this video gave you a new way of understanding why hunger and belly fat are connected at the hormonal level, subscribe to What Science Reveals. Real science explained in plain language every week. And if you want to understand how leptin resistance works alongside ghrelin to lock belly fat in place after 60, that video connects directly to everything we covered today. It is right here. See you in the next one.